But one farmer says, seems to me there was a tea party in Boston that was illegal too.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold.
We shall seek to establish and maintain a dollar which will not change its purchasing and debt-paying power during the succeeding generation.
As anguished shrieks rose up from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Government credit and government currency are really one and the same thing. A reserve of gold and a small reserve of silver.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money.
Get a load of these headlines. Dutch central bank hints at economic restart based on gold standard. Dutch central bank, world will need gold if entire system collapses. Dutch central bank, gold very essential if fiat currency collapses. In gold we trust. Dutch National Bank prepares for economic doomsday. Welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel, the most boring channel on YouTube, the Gold channel. I was once called the Walter Cronkite of gold news. I don't know if that's a compliment, a joke, an insult, but it's funny. It made me laugh at the time. And I don't remember which one of you out there dedicated to the comments, dedicated to being part of this channel, this community, made that comment back then, but it's always stuck with me. It's a good one. Fiat money will become inferior to gold in the event of a total collapse of the world's financial system, one of Europe's central banks has said. Gold will rescue the economy from collapse. In comments which have caught critics of fiat by surprise, the Dutch central bank known as De Nederlandse Bank said gold would be indispensable in the event of a fiat meltdown. Retweeted on social media on October 13th, a statement from the bank's website describes gold as the trust anchor for the financial system. If the entire system collapses, the gold stock provides a collateral to start over. Gold gives confidence in the power of the central bank's balance sheet. That gives a safe feeling, it continues. Wow. I think I wonder if you're a DNB, De Nederlands Bank official, and you're tuning into the Junius Maltby channel, please leave a comment below. Sound arguments. While it is known that central banks have begun buying up gold since the 2008 financial crisis, it is the DNB's phrasing that has excited the bitbugs, Bitcoin proponents in particular. As a form of sound money with the highest stock-to-flow ratio of any commodity, gold previously ensured the sound functioning of economies before governments uncoupled their national currencies from its backing over the last century. As you're all familiar with the breakdown of Bretton Woods, Nixon closing the gold window, and just the overall destruction of the world economy by straying from gold-backed currencies. Since then, as Saifedean Ammous noted in his popular book, The Bitcoin Standard, telltale signs of decay have plagued most countries' economies. Central banks nationally in charge of fiat currencies use interventions to manipulate their supply artificially, something which is all but impossible to do with gold due to its stock-to-flow ratio. This championing of the precious metal's qualities over paper money thus did not go unnoticed among Bitcoin figures. Quote, "It's an established central bank, speaks to the times we live in," unquote. Gabor Gerbak's digital asset manager at Van Eck tweeted in response to DNB, "I firmly believe that private non-sovereign monies have a place in our world. Private monies should be allowed to compete in the free market with central bank monies." This is true. And we've talked about this point in the past. During the Great Depression, there were thousands, I believe, if I remember the number correctly. I've heard at one point up to 3,000. And a lot of these were time exchange type currencies. But there were many competing currencies that popped up here in the United States. It's not uncommon. And there were some that even popped up here during the last financial crisis. People doing hour shares or hour trade. Basically currencies that represented hours of work that people would swap and barter with. And There's been, as far as even metal-backed currency attempts here that to compete with the U.S. dollar. Ron Paul has spoken of this many times before. It's very important to have currencies competing to be used in an economy. If that happens, the trash, such as the fiat, the Federal Reserve notes, the unbacked empty promises of debt will just not be utilized. People would choose to use other mediums of exchange. It's just the way it would work. And Gresham's Law might even take place. If there's real good currencies out there, and even backed ones, people would hoard them out of existence, perhaps, and exchange with them on another level. And of course, the government hates competition. They want a monopoly over the economy. They want a monopoly over force. So the two things they like to attack and ban and get rid of are guns and gold. Those are the things they like to legislate, control, manipulate, and ultimately take from the people. They go hand in hand. Further reading on this same topic, same article subject, Novogratz, current economic climate bullish for decentralized digital gold. Later, serial investor Mike Novogratz struck a similar tone, telling CNN that both gold and Bitcoin as sound money would benefit from current fiat trends. We've got geopolitical uncertainty. We've got negative rates. It's all bullish for gold and bullish for Bitcoin, he said in an interview on October 11th. Not everyone agrees, however. As Cointelegraph reported, Apple CEO Tim Cook claimed earlier this month that only governments should control money. Of course, he's a bootlicking leftist progressive. Oh my gosh, he's a clown. He's part of clown world, Tim Cook. Are you kidding me? Wouldn't listen to that guy about anything. He was speaking within the context of the ongoing difficulties Facebook is encountering with the release of its planned digital currency, Libra. Apple, he said, would not seek to follow its lead. Around the same time, Germany's finance minister likewise said that states should be in control of monetary activities. Of course, they want that monopoly over the economy, monopoly of money. Past utterances from the DNB, meanwhile, have dismissed cryptocurrencies, claiming they do not fulfill the functions of money at all. The rundown. Gold reserves could restart global economy. Gold and Bitcoin demand rise in 2019. This is another article. After a decade of unprecedented quantitative easing, the appeal of a sound currency is returning. Now the Dutch central bank has reiterated some of the messages of gold bugs, stating that gold may become the basis for an economic restart. Gold reserves could restart the global economy. The Dutch central bank mentioned that gold reserves could be used to start from scratch in case of a global economic collapse. Can you believe this? I mean, what you're seeing right now. Central banks actually discussing, coming out, and speaking about global economic collapse, doomsday scenarios, the collapse of fiat as we know it. These people are entertaining that scenario, a scenario that your average person walking down the sidewalk, chewing bubblegum and reading People magazine and going home to watch Dancing with the Stars, it's not even crossing their mind. It's not even on their radar. There is absolutely no way their brain has even synapsed such a visual as the collapse of fiat going into their wallet or taking money out of the bank and it being worth nothing. They don't even entertain it. Again, it's the normalcy bias. They've never experienced it, thus it cannot and will not occur. It's never happened, it never will. And the mindless zombies and the robotons that just stagger down the sidewalk in their pharmacologically induced stupors, they just don't care. And as long as football comes on this month, a couple sporting events here and there, and they get to drink their sody pops, they're fine. They don't worry about it. You know, everything's going to be okay. Everything's normal. All systems normal. Oh, it's not the case. And central banks know it's not. We've seen the articles time and time and time again, and we're going to get to more at the end of this broadcast today about, again, China, Russia, central banks buying. They are stacking gold so heavy, so deep, and so much. And it does make sense. These are the bigwigs. These are the titans, okay? These are the kingpins of the global economy. And what are they doing? They're preparing for this exact scenario. They do not care about you. Rule number one in life, actually, as a matter of fact, nobody cares about you. Nobody. The government doesn't care about you. Most of the people on your street don't care about you in your community. Nobody. You got to watch out for yourself and prepare for yourself and your family and your loved ones in this situation, because nobody else will. So if you want to roll those dice and just, brush off what you're reading, what you're seeing, look around. Central banks are stacking gold, and they're doing it for a reason. This is a tweet here by Tur de Meester, Dutch central bank. If the whole system collapses, the gold reserve can serve as collateral to start from scratch. Let's pretend the scenario occurs. Do it for me, please. Entertain me for just a moment. What do you think that's going to do to the value of gold? Do you think gold's going to remain at the U.S. official price of what, $42 an ounce? Do you think it's going to sit here right now at $1,500? Or do you think gold is going to react and become or take on values we have not yet seen? Of course, the currencies will be collapsed, so you might not even denominate them in U.S. dollars. Remember what some of the professors of economics have stated, and I believe it was Fouquet that predicted it or stated this at one point. He said, there will come a time where you will not exchange your gold for any amount of fiat. And that is an example. That example shines brightly in Weimar Germany. There came a time where there was no amount of marks that people would take for their gold. So that's what you have to consider. There will come a time where it might be the only medium of exchange.
The comments arrive at a time when the U.S. Fed is entering another spiral of quantitative easing. The Fed both lowered its interest rate to 2.25% and recently started pouring funds into the overnight repo facility to ease the rates on interbank overnight lending. Those efforts signal at significant inflows of fiat. Central banks across the globe upped their gold purchases in the past few months. Gold has always been a part of central banks' portfolios, but now the importance has grown. In a world of zero or even negative interest rates, as well as inverse bond yields, gold has also gained appeal as a hedge against runaway inflation and bubbles based on excess liquidity. Gold and Bitcoin demand rise in 2019. The Russian and the Turkish central banks were leaders in gold purchases in 2019. Curiously, both countries are also extremely friendly to crypto assets, which Junius knows I think is World of Warcraft exchange. Mm-hmm. And it's fake. I don't like crypto.
Fake money, right?
Anyway, moving on. And local hyperinflation is a well-known phenomenon for both countries. Turkey is now suffering a shaky exchange rate for the lira, while the Russian Federation still carries the memory of hyperinflation after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
The countries are also hosting vast crypto-based communities as a tool to offset inflation or sluggish local economies. This fits the observation. The demand for gold and Bitcoin usually coincide. While Bitcoin is more volatile than gold in terms of market prices, it is also much more agile. Bitcoin can be used to make global payments, and despite the scrutiny of the network, it still offers a way to move significant funds overseas where a fiat transfer would be impossible or highly expensive. Big problem though, as Brad brought up recently, Mr. Garlinghouse, Bitcoin at current usage is already consuming 1% of global energy and electricity consumption. I don't know if it's sustainable. If you think about just the percentage of people using it now, very small, less than 1% of the entire planet is using it? You start increasing that, and we're using 1% of the electricity. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work in that role. In the past quarter alone, gold appreciated from around $1,200 to above $1,500 per ounce. At the same time, Bitcoin prices erased about 30% of their value. Still, Bitcoin outpaced gold in gains this year, appreciating by more than 200%. Yeah, moving a little bits of money here and there, maybe occasionally, I don't know. Sound money is seen as a solution to an economy flooded by excess liquidity, where fiat money is not meaningful anymore and led to the forming of asset bubbles. Even Bitcoin itself is seen as rising to peak prices on the back of excess fiat liquidity, which was seeking new tools for investment. Yet another article covering this same story. The Dutch central bank has highlighted the importance and necessity of gold in the economy. The bank believes that gold will rescue the world in the times of fiat currency meltdown and save the economy. Central banks began purchasing gold since the financial crisis hit the world in 2008. As analyzed, the economic ecosystem seemingly looks bullish for both gold and digital gold. Finding a critic of fiat currencies is not frequent. However, let me assure you they exist. The Dutch Central Bank, De Nederlands, has released a statement acknowledging the worth and importance of the precious metal gold. The bank has stated that fiat money will become subordinate to gold when the world's financial system faces the meltdown.
The bank described the metal as, quote, the trust anchor for the financial system, and commented, if the entire system collapses, the gold stock provides collateral to start over. Gold gives confidence in the power of the central bank's balance sheet. That gives a safe feeling. The central banks adopted gold after the financial crisis that invaded the economy of the year 2008.
Yeah, that last part, central banks adopting gold after the they were buying before that. I mean, they really started after that point in Brown's down, and I'd say 2002, 3, moving on up to 2008, they really started becoming huge buyers. Yeah, when the financial crisis hit, that's when it became more obvious then. Of course, some of this is reiterating points made in earlier articles and mention the same quotes. The way to survive a total collapse of the economic system is to hold gold, said the Dutch National Bank, DNB, in an article published on their website. In the note, the DNB calls the yellow metal an anchor of trust that is able to retain its value even in times of crisis. Gold is the perfect piggy bank. It's the anchor of trust for the financial system. If the system collapses, the gold stock can serve as a basis to build it up again, the DNB said. Gold bolsters confidence in the stability of the central bank's balance sheet and creates a sense of security. Yes, that point is being made over and over again and reiterated in every article. The DNB currently holds 600 tons of gold, with reserves scattered around the world. About a third, or 31%, of the DNB's gold reserves, valued at over 6 billion euro, are held in their head office in Amsterdam, with another third, about 31%, in the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. I don't know if that 31% is there anymore. The remaining 38% are stored in Canada and the UK. Isn't it interesting that much gold, and they split it up into thirds around the world? Man, I wouldn't want to do that to my stack. I would want it all in one place. Foreign holdings used to account for a higher portion of total gold held by the DNB, but the bank has retrieved part of it in 2014, in line with a host of European central banks that have in the past few years repatriated their gold, including Germany, Italy, and Hungary. Although equity valuations remain buoyant, recession fears are rising, with several prominent investors this year, like Ray Dalio, publicly praising gold's benefits. A bar of gold always retains its value, crisis or no crisis. This creates a sense of security. A central bank's gold stock is therefore regarded as a symbol of solidity, the DNB said. Gold is only a fraction of the reserves portfolio held by the DNB. In total, the central bank manages 38 billion euro in financial assets that serve to substantiate confidence in the Dutch financial system and to support the common European monetary policy and DNB's financial stability mission. These assets not only include gold, but also dollar, yen, and euro, as well as equities and corporate bonds. And as we've seen, China's central bank continuing to load up on gold, People's Bank of China announcing over the weekend that its holdings in the yellow metal rose to 62.64 million ounces in September, an increase of 190,000 ounces from August. Central bank gold buying ramps up again. Gold buying ramped up in Russia, in China, According to the World Gold Council, dozens of central banks have increased their gold reserves by at least 1 ton through the first 8 months of 2019. Think of that! At least a dozen central banks. 1 ton. That's a dozen tons in just this year alone. So what do you think this all means? I mean, well, that's kind of a dumb question for me to ask you. If you're here on the Junius Maltby channel, I think you know what it means, and I think that's why you're here. It's pretty interesting, though. I gotta say, this is the first time I've ever really reported on an article, a series of articles, that are a central bank coming out and discussing the scenarios that we discuss here and are often ridiculed for even entertaining the idea of, which is the collapse of fiat, the collapse of the modern economic system. And it's nice to see, a central bank pulling up a chair, pulling up a tree stump to sit around this campfire and join the conversation with us. It adds a little bit of validity, I believe, to our position. Whereas before, maybe not as much, if we didn't have the voice of a central bank coming out and saying, hey, there's an economic doomsday coming, you might want to buy gold. So it's funny. It's good to hear. Good news. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry the video took so long, 21 minutes. Hopefully you stuck around. If you did, great. Congrats. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and go down below. Look for some Junius Maltby boring attire or coffee mugs if you so are inclined. There's also a nice little sticker in there if that's all you want. Slap a sticker on your car. See your fellow Maltby fans and friends and members of this community out in public, in traffic. All right, take care. Have a good night. Be well.